Hey, I'm Brad Fanshaw from Shift and Steer, and I'm here with the one, the only, Kenny Youngblood. I mean, this guy, when we're talking painters and designers and artists, I mean, this guy's an artist that goes fast. I mean, your art has to have gone hundreds of miles an hour and set a bunch of quarter-mile times.
It caught on fire a few times, too.
Melted to the ground?
Sure.
I mean, wasn't like your home track back in the day, OCIR?
Actually, before that, first race I went to was at St. Gabriel in 1958, which became Irwindale Raceway in the 60s. And, of course, Lions drag strip. Southern California, growing up in the 60s, was, you had 5 drag strips within 2 hours of you there. Was really great times.
Quit bragging. Those were the days, man. That was when it was cool and fast, and everybody had a nickname.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to that? I mean, come on, Kenny, that was the days.
Well, sadly, it got corporate as far as the big show, but the nostalgic cars, like the Frantic Ford here, it's a wave coming back.
Yeah.
Nostalgia racing, and they like the old school look and the names and what give these cars character, and the fans love it too.
You know, when you were painting these cars, and they had so much character, like you just said, because they looked like the cars that we were running. They looked like a Camaro, looked like a Mustang, and down the side, you had all those names like we just said. Who were some of the famous cars that you painted?
Oh gosh, we did a lot of them. I'm getting old, forget.
I know, that's all right.
The first big name car I did was Jungle Jim Lieberman, actually.
Huge
and,
name.
In the early, would have been late 60s. And I ended up working for Dom and Tommy Q. In fact, one of my most notable designs was the U.S. Army car, the original Army car for Prudhomme, which really kind of raised the bar because it was the first real clean graphic.
Would that be the white car?
Yeah, it was the white with the red, white, and blue, the Army car. And it was corporate, very clean, got the message across, business looking. And I also like pretty cars. Back in the day, as an artist, I love working for that guy that cares much about his car, how it looks, as how fast it goes. And there were certainly a lot of guys, the custom body cars out of New York here, Utica, and Phil Castronova, House of Green, the Black Magic cars, and a lot of them where we could really stretch our artistic legs and make them look good. But
fiberglass wasn't your only canvas. I remember the Kenny Youngblood art, and I own one of the posters from the last race at OCIR. Right. I think it had like a Top Fuel dragster taking off like a rocket ship, right?
That's a different piece. That was called Beyond 300 to commemorate Kenny Burns.
I'm getting old, so I don't remember those things. I'm the same way.
We did the last drag race poster. I actually had Tom Mongoose McEwen's car on it. Yeah, I started out lettering, doing the graphics on the cars, and then I moved in more to designing the paint schemes and would ship drawings all over the country at that time, and then moved from there to the easel and started doing some fine art pieces and really pioneered the motorsport collectibles. Back then there wasn't anything. You could maybe buy a t-shirt at the drag race or something, but there wasn't anything to mass market. I knew that, hey, there's a lot of guys out there like me that if they had a choice as to what to hang on their wall, it would be a picture of a race car instead of a flower pot. So I started publishing the prints and really did well, sold them worldwide for several years. And it was actually almost a decade before NASCAR was the first. They came out with little baseball cards back in the mid-'80s. And I saw those cards, and I knew that was the beginning of what turned into $1 billion collectibles industry. Unfortunately, I didn't get in on that, Brad. But
unfortunately, you didn't own Action Collectibles, right? So, hey,
I remember when Fred, Waterbed Fred, worked for Fred Wagnalls at Action, and I remember him coming up to me one day at the drags, and he says, "Kenny, I got to show you something." He had his hand like this, and he opened his hand, and it had a little tiny scale NASCAR in there. And he goes, "This is going to be big. Now, it's going to be really big." And I'm thinking, cares about that, but was I wrong there?
This whole diecast thing took off, and I remember seeing guys would change the graphics on their cars just so they could sell more collectibles.
Absolutely.
I mean,
yeah.
But
Fred would make sure they did.
Yeah, exactly. But one last question for you: did you ever want to get in the seat of one of these cars, or did you ever?
In the late '60s, right out of high school, actually, I loved slingshot dragsters, and I built a couple of them. And drove them, and I did a good job driving, but I knew deep down that wasn't really what I was supposed to be doing. And about 1969, I got out of the driver's seat and realized I should be drawing them instead of driving them. But I don't really have a need for speed. When I drove, I did a good job, and I didn't really care if I won, lost, or whatever. Just had fun. The guys that I call them killer instinct drivers, like Abe Bernstein, like Don Garlitz, and John Force, they've got to win. Second place means nothing, and that's the guy you want to drive in your car, not a sign painter.
Now, where can we find you? I heard you've got a new magazine online. Where can they find that?
Well, it's real easy, fueltube.com. I love nostalgia funny cars, so we've got a magazine. It's all online. It's free. Just go to fueltube.com, and it's right there. Stories and pictures of the modern-day nostalgia funny cars with a sprinkle of the historic cars. We cover all the events and have stories and get up close and personal. I love doing it. fueltube.com. It's that easy.
Hey, when you think of nostalgic racing, you think of the cars back in the day. There was one thing people would say: blood did it.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.